When I observed her and then her color, I thought she was deceased at that point. As a police officer, they train you to expect the unexpected, but even as much time as I've had on, at 3:11 in the afternoon, that was the furthest thing from my mind. On that day, I was actually on my way into work. I ended up behind this vehicle. I noticed that it was driving what I termed as erratic. After I made contact with the driver, and he actually went unconscious, I wanted to render first aid and call for assistance.
When I showed up, that's when I observed both of them passed out and near dead.
It was during school time. I saw a lot of people there with their kids. There's a bus stop right there where all this was happening. And the first thing I saw coming from my angle, I said, there's a kid in the backseat. I went around the back end of it, opened the door up. He was really shy, really scared, and I don't blame him.
I could just see the pain and the trauma in his eyes. I decided to take several photographs to document the incident for courtroom evidence.
I just unfastened the boy from his car seat, and he eventually turned and looked at me and then just like climbed up on me. And he's wrapped around here on my side, sitting on my gun belt, and I could just feel this little kid's heart pounding, you know, right up on my rib cage here. I was calling for Children's Services, and our dispatcher called back saying they need some information. And I was pretty heated, I'm not gonna lie. I yelled back over the radio, you know, just tell them get their butts here now. Fred says, well, let's send them a picture of this and then they'll see why they need to get their butts here.
I was born and raised here in East Liverpool. It's a great place to grow up. You know, you learn a lot about hard work. Unfortunately, since that time, things have really deteriorated. 75% of our population receives some form of assistance from the federal government. And that's really the tragedy that we're dealing with here.
Right now, opioids are definitely our biggest problem because the people are dying from it.
What we were seeing lately.
It's not just heroin, it's the fentanyl, the carfentanil. That's where they're overdosing because they're so strong.
We got an epidemic, and not only us.
People done passed out on her.
Small town America does.
Oh, he ain't getting up, man.
It's across the country. It's every small department. We're fighting and fighting and fighting this. It's frustrating. We're losing the battle. We are. We're losing. We're trying. We're going to keep fighting, but we're losing. This is something that's been stirring for the past 5-6 years. And I think it's culminated into one big incident.
Tonight we here at Nightline team up with more than 50 of our affiliates across the country to show just 1 week in the life of America's worst drug crisis ever. Here's ABC's senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas.
There's a true epidemic sweeping America, striking without warning. On a public bus outside of Philadelphia, on a street in Detroit.
They got needles on their legs.
Come on! Opioids pushing thousands of Americans to the brink of death, playing out on social media. People having to be revived, even by their own children. And the heartbreaking results, an innocent little boy dead.
A 10-year-old boy is being called the youngest victim of Florida's opioid crisis.
And little girls like Liliana in New Hampshire.
He was driving on the bus and he got unconscious.
And how come? What did he do?
He was smoking heroin.
Now without a father.
Big mistake.
At least 91 Americans die every day from an opioid overdose. Drug overdoses now kill more people than guns or car accidents.
The opioid crisis is an emergency.
Opioid addiction is reaching epidemic levels.
For 1 week, Nightline partnered with our affiliate stations across the country.
It's an evil.
Just on heroin.
It's robbing us of our future.
I need an ambulance right away. My son just overdosed on heroin.
If you're a child, a parent, an adult.
My mom and him are known heroin addicts.
If you're breathing.
I want to check his breathing, okay?
This is a problem that affects your family.
My sister just ran inside and told me to come out, and he was on the ground. I think he's ODing.
I was caught off guard.
Please, hurry!
It's very diverse, and it's pretty reflective of Montgomery County.
Oh my God.
This is not one of these problems that we're going to arrest our way out of.
Just so you know, sir, the police are coming too. They might get there first to help him, okay?
Police are on their way.
You'll do anything to save your child.
I can't wake him up. I can't wake him up.
Nobody is safe from this. It is everywhere.
Ma'am?
I'm here. The help's on the way, okay? I'm going to stay on the phone with you. Let me know if anything changes or he gets worse. Is he breathing? Is he breathing?
Heroin. At one time, it was a drug that might have just been confined to the inner city, but those days are gone. Today, the quiet suburbs across our county are the new battleground for heroin, where the number of overdose deaths has skyrocketed.
Best friends that have supported you all your life, you're still there.
These Montgomery County women have come together, as they do every Tuesday night, to talk about how they are coping with the devastating loss of a child due to a heroin overdose.
And it resonates with me, heroin. That word was never a part of our vocabulary.
Amy Cassignol's 24-year-old son, JP, died in July of last year. His addiction began after he was prescribed Oxycontin for an ACL injury in high school.
So when he told me he was an addict and that he had researched it and he tried his best to fight it on his own, but now he needs help. But I was almost reassured that he told me it was pain medicine. I thought, oh, that'll be easy to take care of. Thank you for coming to me. Little did I know it would be the next 3 years of hell.
He was the person that would like to go on the biggest roller coaster ride.
Linda Hudman's son, AJ, overdosed and died at the age of 22. After he was arrested for having 2 Oxycontins, she began to notice signs that there might be a problem.
Money was missing, jewelry was missing. He did look high, but we thought he was using marijuana. We thought the marijuana these days must be very strong, okay? Never again could we have possibly imagined that our son would be using heroin. By the time we figured out my son was addicted to heroin, it was as if he had been caught by a tsunami and he was trying to swim his way out of a tsunami. And we were pulling him, trying to get him out of that tsunami.
I think this was taken on the Eastern Shore and we were all together.
Casey Ryan's addiction started in middle school with marijuana and alcohol. He told his mother, Jimena, he felt more normal when he was under the influence. Casey had been clean for 1.5 years when he injured his foot and was prescribed opioid painkillers. That triggered a relapse that ended with his death of a heroin overdose at the age of 25.
So I had him here and I started noticing spoons and, things that were just, this was not just normal recovery from surgery. He was getting more and more and more just completely, wasted and getting drugs, not that were prescribed. He had finished the prescription drugs and he was continuing to medicate and find other drugs. I realized at that point that, now we were dealing with heroin.
So this is Kyle.
The fact that her son was using heroin took Debbie Gaffner by complete surprise.
So he's very missed.
When Kyle moved back to Maryland from South Carolina, one of his friends alerted Debbie to Kyle's problem. They confronted him about it, and he agreed to talk with someone.
Promised us that it was something he never wanted to do again. The doctors didn't feel that he needed to go into any kind of treatment to detox, that he wasn't physically addicted to it. So we did get him into counseling. He had some depression issues, and we're trying to get him back into school. And fast forward 10 months later, we had no idea that he was still using, and he died of an overdose.
It's literally one day at a time for these mothers who have formally named their group SOUL, or Surviving Our Ultimate Loss. They started meeting a little over a year ago, and there were just a handful of members. Today, their group is approaching 25.
Crisis is worsening because Americans continue to overuse painkillers, and illicit suppliers in Mexico and China have boosted their production of heroin and fentanyl, a powerful synthetic opioid which is 50 times more potent than heroin. Just a small amount can kill you.
You even tried to take a sip of the alcohol.
It was a new flavor. I wouldn't try it, but it was sip of alcohol. You telling me?
You are looking at the face of addiction. It is difficult to watch, but it's also a rare and important look inside the opioid epidemic that is ravaging West Michigan and the country.
Target 8 investigator Susan Samples is exposing the killer among us. Susan?
Marley and Brian, you can't escape the dire declarations these days with the CDC labeling overdose deaths epidemic. But tonight we're going beyond the rhetoric, lifting the veil on the dark world of opioid addiction.
Just wanted to record this video to show her some other time in the future, maybe to see what I see.
It was year 8 of Kelly Galbraith's decade of despair.
She's mumbling. You can't understand what she's saying.
At this point, the 25-year-old was mixing heroin, meth, pot, booze, Xanax, and Adderall. Chaos captured by a roommate and close friend.
You're just against everything that's new, any kind of pot, alcohol. That's insane.
Well, if you're going to do pot and alcohol, don't do Adderall and whatever, and just do that. Then.
Babe, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to fucking out of the room, but you don't know how I feel. You don't know.
Death's door came 2 months later when Galbraith's heart finally gave out from a toxic mix of meth and heroin.
But 1,500 miles away in Kentucky,
to the left,
is too late for one family.
2 house this time. 2 house this time.
22-year-old Veronica Jecker, like many, was young and full of life. But like so many young people in America, at some point Veronica experimented with pills, and unbeknownst to her parents, eventually turned to heroin.
She was so good at hiding it. This is the first time we've heard heroin and Veronica's name mentioned. We knew it was pills.
And in the last year of her life, she kind of pulled away.
And like countless others, Veronica was in and out of rehab.
We thought, this is the start of her getting better, her recovery.
But she checks herself out of rehab for a weekend to see a friend.
911, where's your emergency?
I don't know. I just woke up and threw it over there.
I got a phone call around 7:15, and all they would tell me was, we need you to come to the hospital. And I said, is she alive? Is she okay? Is she breathing? And they said, ma'am, I'm sorry. Please, we just need you to come here.
By 2:30 p.m. on day 1 of our week, Veronica is pronounced dead from a heroin overdose.
She was gone. Our daughter, she was gone.
Veronica leaves behind her own 4-year-old daughter, Raylyn. Today, it was Veronica, but her parents warn tomorrow it could be your kid.
I want to tell her story. If I can save one mother from having to go through this pain of burying your child, I'll do it.
I spoke with an expert who said it's the closest thing that he's seen to the loss of free will because of the chemistry change in the brain. Is that true?
Yeah, it's not just, it's a physical addiction, it's a psychological addiction, which means that people are spending their time constantly thinking about getting the drug. Also, their body's addicted, so if they stop using the drug, then they withdraw and they feel miserable.
It's not uncommon to see doctors making upwards of $1 million a year.
But that's nothing compared to what some of the clinic owners make. DEA DEA agents seized more than 24 luxury cars from the garage of one pill mill entrepreneur.
This individual was making $150,000 a day.
Viper, Porsche, a nice blue Bentley. I don't even know what kind of car this is. Why does it take so long to bust these clinics? Why can't you just go in and knock them down one by one?
Well, they're doing it under the cover of their medical license, and you have to prove that the doctor knew that they were overprescribing.
These people are addicted. I mean, these people are suffering, and these pill mill clinic owners and some of these doctors, they're just preying on that suffering for cash, for the profit.
We came to Broward County a year ago to do an investigation on pill mills. Now we're back a year later, and there's still rows and rows of pain clinics. We're seeing more babies being born addicted to drugs.
More people died last year from prescription drug overdoses than car accidents.
Our children are dying, and it's all young people. It's all the young people.
From the outside, they look more like nightclubs than doctors' offices. And they're not too happy to see our cameras.
We're here in a parking lot in one of these pain clinics.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Leave them alone.
Broward County, Florida is filled with pain clinics. Doctors making millions doling out prescription opioids, also known as heroin in a pill, like candy.
Oxycodone?
Oxycodone, 30 milligrams, Roxy's, Blues.
They can get hundreds and hundreds of pills in one day from just going from one doctor to the next. And then they're taking them on the street and they're selling them.
Authorities are struggling to shut down these pill mills, but not fast enough. More and more people keep dying from prescription drug overdoses.
These doctors are slaughtering our children every single day. Look at us. We're desperate. We're begging you.
As one generation succumbs to prescription opioids, Joy joins other South Florida parents in protest against the pill mills that feed addiction.
So are the majority of people out here, have they lost family members to pills?
Yeah. This is my precious son. His name is Jay. He died at age 36 on his birthday. Blaine died December 5th, 2009.
You're home at night and the phone rings and you're afraid to answer because you don't know whether it's the sheriff, the morgue, or the hospital.
Authorities say some of the blame lies with doctors. During the week we tracked, 3 doctors stood accused of illegally prescribing pain medications to their patients. Dr. Howard Diamond was one of them.
I'm trained in physical medicine and rehabilitation.
According to Diamond's indictment, his actions resulted in the overdose deaths of 7 of his patients. Diamond has pled not guilty to all charges. His lawyer said in part, "You can't blame the doctor if people are misusing their prescriptions. The allegations of 7 people that died happened over the last 5 years. Dr. Diamond has had hundreds, if not thousands, of patients over that time." With Diamond no longer practicing,
painful. I need my medication.
Mike Tallis is concerned. He's been coming to Dr. Diamond for prescription painkillers for injuries he says he sustained on the job a decade ago.
I've been kind of rationing my medicine, you know.
Now he worries where his next refill will come from.
I got like 5 pain pills left.
What happens after that?
I don't know. I have to go in the street and get them.
We've been talking about this epidemic now for a number of years, yet it continues to get worse. What's fueling it?
So there was a lot of people that were prescribed opioids for surgeries, for kidney stones, for broken bones, but this came with an unintended consequence because you had all of these people who were now addicted to prescription opioids. So there's become a culture change towards making sure that we're not prescribing too many opioids.
The reason why this quote-unquote epidemic is such a tragedy is because it's hurting white America. When crack and heroin were destroying the black community, no one in the public cared. In fact, many of our addicts were arrested and detained for many years instead of being offered rehabilitation services. These hard drugs were intentionally introduced into our communities as a form of chemical warfare. The end result was broken homes, destroyed lives, abandoned children, chemically dependent adults, and a hellish experience that decimated the Negro population. But through it all, we pulled through. Now karma is dishing back upon the progeny of the perpetrators the fruit of their wicked ways and labors. What you sow, you will reap. Let's talk about the black community before crack cocaine was introduced.
Hi, before crack cocaine was introduced into the community, I mean, we were scholars, we had our heads on straight, we got along with each other, we helped each other out. If someone was out of work and had a family, another business owner would take that family in and give that man a job and make him an apprentice. So we knew how to build. The way they lied and told you the Jews passed the money around the community 7 times before it went out, they learned that from us.
Yeah.
That's what we did because we owned all the cities and everything. So that's what we did, and they just took that formula for themselves.
Yes, and used chemical warfare to mess up the consciousness of our people and leave all of our cities in ruin. And like you guys saw in the Great Tribulation series that we put out, they stole the land, they stole the rural areas, built themselves a utopia, and huddled all the Negroes into major cities into what they call projects. Now, the result of this crack cocaine was crack babies.
So a lot of things are in the works to tear down the power structure that has poisoned the native people of this land.
Yes, and we are still dealing with the result of the crack cocaine with the new generation of crack babies that are roaming our streets.
Drug addiction, obviously, it's a devastating thing, but often what is forgotten, every 19 minutes a child in the U.S. is born with an opioid addiction that they have inherited from their drug-addicted mothers. I want you to look at this disturbing video. It's from Cabell Huntington Hospital in West Virginia. What you're seeing is this is a newborn child literally going through opiate withdrawal. And for some of these newborns, there is luckily a happy ending. But these kids, the minute the umbilical cord is cut, so is their heroin supply or whatever opiate is in their mother's system. It's hard to watch. And about half babies who are born to mothers taking opiates will have symptoms resembling what you saw in that video. Heroin abuse, we've talked about, it's nearly doubled in the U.S. There are a lot of people out there who are using it and addicted to it.
A new generation of addicts is being born.
Because we saw the number of crack babies that died, and this is just another version of that. We all need to be concerned.
Good morning, ladies. I'm Jessica. I feel good today. Casey goes for a follow-up appointment at the doctor's, so hopefully they'll say she's doing better, and I hope everybody has a blessed day.
This is Casey's bed. Like I said, she's a princess, so...
And that's right after she was born?
Yeah, that's right after she was born. That's about a week after she was born. And
what, is
this is her that's her nebulizer. Just put that on her face and turn it on. Kind of loud.
This is why we're going to the doctors, that nasty cough. And that nasty cough.
For most of her pregnancy, Jessica flooded her body, and therefore Casey's, with the prescription painkiller oxycodone, a synthetic version of heroin. These prescription pills have emerged as the nation's fastest growing drug problem. Jessica fears the drug use is responsible for Casey's frequent respiratory infections.
With my other 2 kids, they were never sick this young, so it's kind of new to me. God comforts us in a way a loving parent comforts a frightened child.
2 years ago, Jessica's husband died. A friend gave Jessica a couple oxycodone pills to numb the pain.
When I started, I was taking like 1 to 2, and within a 6-month period, I was taking 30 milligram.
30 milligrams?
Yeah, exactly, snorting them.
Jessica was getting her pills from Florida's numerous pill mills. And then she got pregnant. If you are pregnant and you know that it's harming the baby and you know it could possibly cause birth defects, why don't you just quit using the pills?
It's just not that easy. You feel like you're gonna die.
This recovery center used to be filled with pregnant women who had abused crack cocaine. Now it's pills. When did the first patient start coming in addicted to pills?
Okay, in 2000, this is all cocaine. Right
The
here,
blue line.
the blue line versus primary drug of choice prescription, right? And the crossover was sometime in 2009.
Pregnant women addicted to crack are encouraged to quit. But with opioids, babies get just as addicted as the mother. If she quits cold turkey, the baby could die in utero from withdrawal. When you were going through withdrawal, did you feel that Casey was going through withdrawal as well?
Absolutely.
How is that?
She would like curl up, like because it was, you know, in the latter part of my pregnancy, she would curl up in like a ball, and my stomach would get like rock solid, and she wouldn't move. I mean, you could feel it. You could just feel that she was in torment. It's really sad, you know, to know that your baby's in pain while you're in pain, and then you just feel horrible because you did it. You know, you did it. You put yourself there.
Jessica was weaned off the pills before Casey was born. Those that aren't give birth to babies who begin to suffer with their first breath. So you actually have to detox the babies.
They go through their withdrawal symptoms, yes. They start out by having feeding intolerances, diarrhea. You can tell that they're crampy, they're miserable, they're irritable, they sweat, they can have rapid breathing. Sometimes they can even have seizures.
According to state health records, during the first half of 2010 alone, 635 Florida babies were born addicted. You were saying that the number of babies you've seen addicted to prescription drugs doubled last year.
Yes. There are some situations where we have 3 or 4 babies at a time. It just makes everybody a little reflective and a little sad about the whole situation.
Even more troubling, researchers still don't know what the long-term effects of opioid use will be on infants.
Yes, princess.
And neither does Jessica.
Because I know that I'm going through stuff, getting off of the pills. So what's she going through? Because she's just a little baby. And she can't talk, and she can't tell me how she feels. I want to make sure that she doesn't want for anything, that she doesn't have to hurt any more than I already put her through. She didn't deserve that.